Annie Whitaker Pais is a painter, educator, retreat leader, and creative consultant who's lived in Gainesville since 1978 and raised 3 children here. Her love for North Florida is expressed in her art, in her passion for the health and well-being of this region, and for the past 10 years as executive director of Florida's Eden. Through her leadership with Florida's Eden, Annie helped to incubate and steer such projects as the Howard T. Odom Florida Springs Institute, the Blue Path, the Ichnetucknee Classroom Model, a series of full-color regional guidebooks, and now Primavera. In 2004, Annie's efforts were rewarded when the Florida's Eden Comprehensive Plan was endorsed by Richard Florida, the author of The Rise of the Creative Class, as a potential global model for creative economies. Welcome, Annie.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I'm so glad I've been trying to get you for quite a while. I'm so glad you're here today.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Primavera because I know that's the kind of the hot news right now, but before we get to that, I mentioned in your bio that you were involved in Florida's Eden. So can you kind of take us back to the beginning of when these things started?
Yes. Well, in 2002, a lot of us were talking about the changes and the growth that was going to come to North Florida.
Yeah.
And we realized that for a long time, you know, we have so many creatives living here, and for a long time I think we were kind of flying under the radar and just hoping that we wouldn't be discovered. And then, you know, we started realizing that we needed to be proactive, and really it was in being proactive that we would be able to influence as much as possible how the growth was coming, because we wanted to grow, but we wanted to grow in a way that was going to you know, preserve what distinguished us here.
Right, right.
So we formed Florida's Eden, about 25 of us did, in 2002, and we've grown it ever since. And
is Florida's Eden, does that describe Alachua County, or is it a
no,
broader?
No. Actually, Florida's Eden is 30 counties of
really?
North Florida.
Oh,
yeah, it's coast to coast. The Georgia-Florida state line, although, you know, now we're starting to partner a little bit up into South Georgia. And our southernmost boundary is Citrus, Lake, Marion, and Volusia counties, so just above the I-4 corridor.
I see.
And largely, you know, we asked a lot of people what our region should look like, and they all said those boundaries. We actually go all the way over to the Apalachicola River.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and it's the part of Florida that didn't have its own identity, and it was pretty much carved up into planning districts, tourist development districts. But in truth, North Florida is one big bioregion, and we always knew the water was going to be a big concern, and the water doesn't know any of those man-made boundaries.
Doesn't recognize them at all.
No, so we actually went around, I took a nonprofit expert, Don Daly, who's still on my board, and we went all over North Florida asking if there was a nonprofit or if there was you know, some group that was working from a regional comprehensive perspective, and there just wasn't. So that's when we started one.
I have the advantage of having read a great deal about what you're doing and talking to you, but one thing that I found interesting that I never really thought about was this area of Florida was the original tourist destination a couple of centuries ago, I guess.
Yes. You know, people came down from Europe and from the northern part of the United States largely by steamboat, and they came into Jacksonville, into the mouth of the St. Johns River.
Yeah.
And so that was the first place. I mean, look at St. Augustine, for goodness sakes, it's been around forever.
Right.
And then they started venturing further west, and they discovered our Springs region. And so, yeah, we say that tourists have always come here for the same 3 reasons, and they still come here for the same 3 reasons.
What are those?
Those are to explore the natural environs, because those are just so magnificent, and to inspire their creativity, because a lot of people did come to inspire creativity, and also to restore their health and their well-being and their spiritual and physical well-being. So whether they're recreating or coming for some sort of a pilgrimage or, you know, whatever that, or using the springs as a way to heal, that's what they've always done.
You know, Annie, when you live here,
Yes.
you tend to take things like the springs for granted, but I think back to the first time I saw a spring, and it was just this almost mystical experience. We forget sometimes what an incredible jewel those things are.
Yeah, we do. And you know, they're changing so much, though.
Right.
Cynthia Barnett, who wrote the book Blue Revolution that we promote, I just heard her in a TEDx talk over at UF, and she was talking about when William Bartram described the springs back in the 1700s, that they actually were fountainous. Like, the boil was so much force that they actually like came way up.
Right.
You know, and then I was going down the river, the Ichetucknee River, with a bunch of people a few months ago, and there was an older gentleman, and he was telling us that when he was a child, before the state park, you know, before the Ichetucknee became a state park, they used to walk down to go to the spring, the watering hole, and that you could hear the roar of the spring way up the dirt road.
Right.
So, you know, I think that when we see the springs, they're always so incredibly magical looking, but we forget how much they've changed.
Right.
And now that Ichetucknee River is down 25%, largely because we're just over-tapping the aquifer.
So I understand now that Florida's eaten what it concentrates on and the geographic area, but what is the mission of it? What are you hoping to accomplish with it?
The mission is to grow the creative economy. We've always been really big proponents of the creative economy, and in a way that is asset-based, and that means looking at our natural and cultural assets. What are those things that distinguish us here? And value those enough to put them at the core of an economic development plan.
Oh,
so our natural assets, of course, are our springs region. We have more springs here than anywhere else on the planet. And my daughter, who's a park ranger, always says, tell them we're the Grand Canyon of freshwater springs.
I like that a lot.
It is, yeah.
So what are the practical tools? I mean, what are some of the where the rubber meets the road things that Florida's eaten does?
Well, we partner a great deal. So we say we sit at the confluence of where the economy, the environment, and education all meet. And so we advocate for the region, first of all. We do a lot of partnering with economic development partners. I'm a partner on IG, Innovation Gainesville. We do a lot of education work. We have a model education program out in Columbia County at Fort White Middle School, High School.
Right.
So we have these projects that demonstrate and put forward the articulation and the ideas that we're trying to, you know, work into the mainstream.
I've seen some of your amazing literature. You obviously have wonderful folks doing that kind of thing.
We do.
I know Stuart Thomas is a big part of that.
Stuart's been with me from the beginning, bless that man's heart. I always say if something happened to Stuart, I'd have to figure out something else to do all. Because we have this in-house design, and Stuart, who is a tremendous graphic designer, creates the look and feel of each one of our projects. And so he's done a remarkable job of actually varying that look, but keeping it kind of the same. And we also, Florida's Eden, we now are up to, I think, 650 members.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and those members constitute the creative economy, you know. And so we have writers, and we have photographers, and we have painters, and filmmakers, and chefs, and organic farmers, and local restaurants, and whole organizations that are now a part of Florida's Eden. And so when we do something like produce a guidebook, all we have to do is go to our membership, and every single photograph, every single piece of written information or history was something that locals wrote, you know, no outsourcing of anything.
Yeah.
And
those pieces have been really signature pieces for this area for this Eden area.
Yeah, in fact, when we deliver those to our partners, and a lot of our partners are the technology sector partners now. I'm really excited to be working with them. And so they were actually using the guidebooks to entice and recruit, you know, people like Dr. Blatchley at the Performing Arts Center gives out those guidebooks to every performer who comes through Gainesville. So they've ended up all over the world, and very proud of them.
And now you've got what looks like it's going to turn into another big signature event, which is the Primavera Festival. Tell me about that.
I know we kind of bit off a big one this and it grows.
That's not unusual for you.
No, but even for us, this was a big one. You know, but those of us who live here know that we are a tremendous cultural community. I mean, you know that better than just about anybody. And those of us that have been around for a while have watched our cultural community just grow by leaps and bounds. And so a lot of us have been talking for years about putting Gainesville on the map as a cultural destination. And the problem was, even though we had a huge amount of existing you know, organizations and venues and events, we were each trying to market those events independently of one another.
Right.
So the idea was to find a vehicle that everybody could jump on and do some joint marketing and create a bigger story, you know, for Gainesville, and one that could attract a bigger audience, a wider market, and get the attention of the media.
So Primavera takes place when?
Pretty much right now.
Right now.
I know.
Okay.
Very serendipitous.
Right.
Yeah, I think it starts tomorrow.
We're
March 20th.
We're taping this show on the 19th. It'll probably be on the air in a few days.
Yeah,
so it will get started. You're right.
Yes. So March 20th through April 22nd.
Right.
What we did was we researched it was like last spring, last summer, we started researching the spring 2012 season. And we,
of all the different
we went out and we just got every date we could possibly find. And we actually found that there was a curve and a peak of the season. And we took a month-long slice out of that peak. And it just so happened, I love this, it happened to be March 20th, which is the spring equinox, and April 22nd, which is Earth Day. So I think that because this is, the idea for this is it's going to continue every year. And so I think looking at those bookended dates of the equinox to Earth Day and trying to get everybody to start putting more and more and more into those, into that month-long slice.
And you're not recreating the wheel here. You just see the cultural diversity and just the sheer volume of cultural events, and you've decided to just take that
I think that's the genius of the thing, is that, you know, we were looking, or our patron community kept coming and saying, why don't we have a Sploto to put us on the map like Charleston
That's the
Charleston, South Carolina did. When I went around back to all our partners, you know, the cultural sector partners, and I said, you know, let's put ourselves on the map. What do we have to do? And everybody said, you know, we have more going on here than Charleston, South Carolina ever thought about having when they were creating Sploto. And all we have to do is take what we already have and market it together in a different way.
And I understand you're working, that the county has a direct involvement here.
Yes, yes. So one of the first things we did was we went to our good partners, you know, the Visit Gainesville, the Alachua County TDC, and we applied for a grant and got one. And so that was, you know, our seed money really, and our out of county advertising money.
Right.
So yeah, and then we've done really well. We've managed to, I think, you know, triple or quadruple that amount of money. So we've brought in a lot of partners. People bought in on all different levels, according to their own comfort and, you know, what they could do this first year. And then we got a couple of other grants. We got an AEC Trust grant from the Coffrin family. And I'm really happy with this initial debut year because, you know, when you're pioneering something, you got to get it off the ground first and then start building it.
I'm going to ask you some numbers questions. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you have a handle on how many individual organizations in the creative community are involved?
In Primavera?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this thing has just mushroomed, and it's grown very much like a spring garden around here grows, you know. We are now up to about 200 events in approximately, I don't even know how many, over 60 different venues, very eclectic venues too, across different neighborhoods in Gainesville and throughout the county. So, I mean, we're more than we ever imagined. We're just thrilled with the way this has grown. And it's been a bear. We're like running to keep up with it.
Yeah, yeah. Do
It's
you have a physical location?
We do. Well,
okay.
we have taken up residence, or we are this week taking up residence at the Doris Barden Community Cultural Center. And I mean, I just love that. And maybe we can acknowledge Doris Barden for a second here.
I would be haunted if I didn't.
I know, me too. Those
she was
of us.
such a driving force.
She was.
Can you give us, just for those who maybe don't know Doris?
Oh gosh, Doris was just a force, you know. And she was a force with the music community and the visual arts community both, right. Probably with all the arts. Mm-hmm. That's the way that I knew her. And her big legacy was that she fought and fought and fought for Gainesville to have a community cultural center where artists could show their work, take classes, where things could, artist groups could meet, you know, and have programs. And so, and she left money for it. She passed away a few years ago, and she left some money, and now there's a cooperative in her name, the Doris Barden Community Cultural Center. I'm so pleased about this. Up on North Main Street, 716 North Main to be exact. And they have so generously allowed us to move in there for a whole month and set up Primavera headquarters. And at the same time, Florida's Eden, I would be horrible if I didn't mention this, we turned 10 years old this year. So we started, I know, it's amazing. And so we are setting up in the gallery space at the Doris 2 different exhibits. We're putting up a 10-year retrospective called Florida's Eden 10. Our wonderful colleague Jacqueline Collette is designing that exhibition. And then Stuart Thomas and Lou Merritt have written a wonderful script for an exhibition called Travels on the Blue Path, which is sort of recreating a show that we put up at the Florida Museum of Natural History about a year and a half ago. And both of those exhibits are going to be very interactive, which is something that I really wanted to see happen, because thousands of people really have had a hand in forming Florida's Eden and in all our different projects. And so we've asked people to come back and actually put their hand, you know, put their handprint on the piece that they did. And so we're actually going to have ways in which they can physically do that.
Great.
Yeah, so that's up until April 22nd. But people can come to the Doris and pick up a program guide. We're going to have
Primavera.
Yes, free program guides. And we'll sit with a computer. We're moving the computers in this week. We'll be able to sit and talk to people about their interests and their time frame, sure, and go over different possibilities, family events, you know, things like that.
How are you advertising outside of Alachua County?
Well, we've actually done quite a bit of advertising this first year. We did some 4-fold brochures, you know, the ones that fold out.
For the Welcome Center?
Yes, we had one that went through Visit Florida to the 5 Welcome Centers, and a different one that actually went, we work with a distribution company that put them in all different venues from here all the way to Atlanta, up the I-75 corridor. We've also sent postcards and posters out and about. A lot of our artists are doing spring shows right now around the state and other places, and so they've been taking piles of postcards to give out also. They're our ambassadors.
Do you have a kind of a network among all the counties that are considered to be part of Florida's Eden?
Well, not all of them yet, but we're branching out. We have a pretty good network in about 8 to 11 adjacent counties. We really see Gainesville and Alachua County as a central destination hub. And I'm really happy to see, you know, the technology sectors and everybody kind of jumping on that hub bandwagon, because
it's amazing how things are coming together.
They really are. Yeah, they really are.
I know Richard Florida?
Yeah, Richard Florida.
I know he's a big fan of what you're doing and
he really
has endorsed what you're doing.
Yeah, he did. He came here right about the same time that we founded Florida's Eden. Richard Florida, I love that he has the Florida last name.
Yeah.
For us, anyway, it works really well.
He didn't change his name?
No, you know, it's great. It's absolutely great.
And he's the author of...
Rise of the Creative Class, and a lot of other books since then.
Right.
You know, he sort of rocketed to rock star fame almost overnight with that book, Rise of the Creative Class. And he really coined the term the creative economy in the mainstream. And he was an economist. His book, I think, is frightfully dull. I made Stuart read it, I'm going to just admit. It's an economic, you know, statistical
now,
book.
to be fair, there are some people who love that.
I know. Well, a lot of people did read it, you know, but it actually cited Gainesville really, really well.
Right.
I mean, what he basically said is that we had all of the ingredients to become a hot spot for the creative economy. And he predicted that in, you know, 5 to 10 years, we would have just a huge energy center of creatives living here and high-paid jobs, and that technology would be this big thing, and that culture would be, you know, a really driving force.
And we see that taking root now.
Yeah, and we really do. And he came back a couple of years ago and re-predicted, you know, re-emphasized his prediction.
Right.
So we brought him, we worked with the University of Florida and back in '04, seems like a long time ago now, in Santa Fe and the Chamber and the county and the city. Florida's Eden was the sort of the newbie, but we did a lot of the design work and the sort of the grunt work, getting people to the event that you know, the Rights Union, I think, was the place that he actually gave his big talk. And during that time, he sought us out, and even though we were, you know, considered ourselves kind of fledgling, he endorsed the plan that that we were producing. So
you know, I'm gonna need to get you back because
too much to
I mean,
talk
well,
about.
yeah, I mean, the whole creative economy and the repercussions of that could fill up an entire show here.
It's a great economic story, and I would love to come back and talk about that.
But before we leave, I just want to make sure I'm covering Primavera.
Yes.
I know you have a number of sponsors, and we're going to be kind of putting that up graphically during the show. Can you give us the one thing that I really love about this is people who live here.
Yeah.
This is a good idea for all of us to look at that month and say, my gosh, what an incredible place we live.
Yes.
There is always something going on.
There's too
any
much
night
now.
of the
You
week.
can't possibly
That's
do
right.
it all.
And just how fortunate we are to live here. But can you throw out maybe who are some of the organizations involved, the arts organizations?
Yeah, we have 11 premier partners. Florida's Eden is one of those, and the Doris is one. But the three big entities over at the Cultural Plaza, the UF Cultural Plaza.
The Harn.
The Harn, and you know, the Harn is doing this incredible thing. They are opening up the David A. Coffrin Asian Art Wing, and that is turning out to be kind of an international event. You know, Rebecca Nagy hired a New York marketing firm to kind of handle all of that. So it turns out that we have a very, very important Asian collection, and so that's going to be housed there.
And you've got the Natural History Museum and
We
the
do.
Performing Arts Center, the Hippodrome.
Yep, and we always say that about the performing arts, that they bring the world you know, to Gainesville. They do such a good job. The Florida Museum is doing a wonderful thing called Bio Blitz for Earth Day, which is the end of Florida's Primavera. Yeah, the Hippodrome is putting on Midsummer Night's Dream, kind of a new twist on that, and we actually got to be sponsors of that. So yeah, and some new things are happening too. One of the things I love about Primavera is it's a catalyst for all kinds of new development, and I think we're going to see that just keep going by leaps and bounds. But already 2 arts districts have decided to formally name themselves and start working together in some new ways. The Downtown Gainesville Arts and Entertainment District is now you know,
official,
and we need that. You know, we deserve that. We're big enough to have some arts districts. Over on the west side of town, the Thornbrook Millhopper Arts District is now forming, and that's where we've enjoyed Art Hop, you know, for a couple of years now. Right. There's just a whole slew of businesses over there. We've also seen some new events just form spontaneously and put themselves into Primavera. The Lost Art Gallery over at Thornbrook Village is doing a wonderful chalk festival where, you know, sidewalk chalk art. And
within the Thornbrook area?
Yeah, it turns out there's a lot of good concrete surface over there in the middle of that atrium. And so Vicki Golden, the, you know, the proprietor of Lost Art Gallery, has actually invited some really good chalk artists. So that's going to be a fabulous event, and I think that's over the Earth Day weekend also. So, you know, lots of things happening. An art walk, that's a Primavera art walk, will happen the last Friday during March. And, you know, we're just seeing all kinds of new things happening. So also out and about, let's mention the Melrose Open Air Arts event. I always love that one.
That's another, that could be a whole nother show.
Yeah, that one is. And they're now in their 6th year. I'm really proud of the way they've grown that event. And what is that event again, for those who don't know? Well, 60 artists, I think, this year are coming together. Paint-outs, you know, have gotten to be really big. In fact, through a lot of the work that we've done and the work that other arts organizations have done, we've now made North Florida and Gainesville the hub for kind of the epicenter for plein air painting in the whole southeastern United States. So the painters are coming to Melrose, and they put up their easels and they paint the town, literally, paint a portrait of the town for a whole week. And spectators are allowed? Yep, I think there's a weekend, the 24th and 25th, I hope, of March. I got that straight. But we can look that up, you know. And the public comes out, and you can buy paintings wet off the easel. It's very spontaneous. And you can talk to the artists. And, you know, it's one of the few events, paint-outs, where the public actually gets to watch the painting process.
Well, Annie, we're about out of time, but I want to, all throughout this show, we're putting the website up, so we want to steer people to the website so that they can see the calendar and the schedule and enjoy these things. But
and come to the Doors and say hi to us.
Yes, yes.
Thank
Doors,
you so much.
Primavera HQ at the Doors. Yeah, thank you, Annie.
Thank you.
At socialsecurity.gov, you can apply for retirement, disability, or Medicare from your own home.
Chekhov applied in his pajamas.
All over America, people are taking the national radon test. Have you?
Would you put me on the spot?
True or false? Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer.
True. I'd say false.
No, it's true.
That's something new to me.
The Office of the Surgeon General recommends all homes be tested for radon.
False.
It's true.
True.
So that's bad. We should get our house tested. Sure, I'm gonna call it.
1-800-SOS-RADON.
How can you not call?
1-800-SOS-RADON.